Welcome to The Leaders Who Care, a podcast powered by Dynamis Group. We are here to give the stage and support to those committed to create a positive and lasting impact, way beyond the profits and margins, the leaders of the world who care for others and serve a bigger purpose. Join us on the journey of creating a better, more caring world. And now to your host, Marian Timelkov.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for bearing with us. This morning we had an emergency, and grateful that everything was okay. And thank you, Herman, for making the time and being here today with us. For the audience, as you know, we're on a mission to bring some of the most caring leaders from every corner of the world. And today we have the honor and privilege to welcome German Coppola, who is also the co-founder and CEO of Yumiwi, and I'm so excited and looking forward to the discussion today. German, welcome, and thank you so much for being with us and bearing with us this morning.
Oh, Marian, thank you so much for the invitation. It's a privilege to be here, and yeah, that emergency was kind of weird, but fun too at the same time. So we're all ready. Whenever you want, we can get started. Super excited to be here.
Love it. Well, as you know, guys, we live in a world that emergencies do happen, but hopefully part of the talk today will be how to take care of ourselves and really how can we minimize and prevent, because often it's not just the emergency that happened, but how you deal with it is also very important. So would love to touch on some of that. But more importantly, Herman, I really appreciate you and what you do with how you serve and how you make a difference, because we live in a world where probably the best time ever to create things, to innovate, to really establish new businesses and companies. And you're one of those entrepreneurs that really deeply respect and honor for what you do. But there's so many out there that are looking, hey, what should I do with my life? Do I need to start a business? Or I may have already a business. How do I scale? There's so many questions. And would love to hear your experience so far. How can we do it in a way that it's sustainable, it's caring for ourselves, for our family, for our community, for our teams? Would love to hear a little bit about your journey so far, and how did the idea of Yumiwi was born? Would be fantastic.
Oh, thank you so much for the space and to share this experience. Let me tell you a little bit about who I am, my background, and you're probably going to understand why it is I ended up creating a business or becoming an entrepreneur. I was born in Uruguay, in a small country in South America. I then moved around Latin America. I lived in Costa Rica and Guatemala and the United States as well. And I ended up now in Spain. I live in Spain. And I moved here like 20 years ago, and I became an entrepreneur. I decided that I did not want to work for anybody else but myself. That was a decision I made way back in 2001. And I decided that I should become an entrepreneur. The question is, what do you do? And I think this is a big question when you want to do something, okay, what am I good at? What am I really good at? But when you're in your 20s, early 20s, are you really good at anything? You might be, but you really don't know. You're kind of like looking for a space, And my journey has been about pivoting, and I encourage people to actually just get it done. Don't be afraid of what can come after you decide to take the leap to become an entrepreneur. I was a designer when I started out. I built websites. I was doing animations. I was editing videos. I ended up now, Yumiwi has over 15 years. And this is a company about technology and data for events. So it has nothing to do with design or anything like that, but it has to do with providing value to your customer and providing making sure their lives is a little bit easier. And I always say that because we always tend to be, as entrepreneurs, we look for money. And I believe money is a consequence of your passion, of what you actually want to do. Obviously, money is important because we live in a society that it's run by money. But if you're passionate about something, money just becomes a consequence of what you're doing. And I think that's the greatest example. And I've been doing a lot of things that sometimes I thought was useless. It's like, I was designing logos. Why would I waste my time designing logos when I ended up building a company for events? Well, I ended up designing my logo for my company. I ended up building my own website. When I started out, I had all these skills that I've been acquiring since the past. And I think that's very important for you not to get discouraged on whatever it is that you've learned or you've done and you think you've failed at or you're not good at, or you maybe that's not the way you want to pivot. That will eventually come back and help you somehow in your future endeavors. And I think it's very important to keep that in mind. Don't feel like, man, I wasted 2.5 years or 3 years of my life doing this or working for this company, but then I'm shifting completely to this other side. Most likely, all that experience, you're gonna end up using it and reusing it constantly. So, I think being an entrepreneur, it's a state of mind. It's not easy. You don't get the paycheck at the end of the month like you get, but at the same time, people say it's risky. I think it's riskier to work for somebody else because you never know when you're going to get fired. At least as an entrepreneur, you know what's coming your way. You have a projection. You see like a path of your vision of your company, and you could actually, in a sense, understand that if you're going to go bankrupt or not, what to do in advance before you actually walk into the office one day at 9 o'clock and they tell you you're fired and you walk out and you have no idea what to do with your life. So, I mean, I encourage people to actually just get it done and don't be so perfectionist. I think that's the biggest mistake we make sometimes as entrepreneurs. We try to make everything perfect. So yeah, this is kind of like what got me there. It's just been my mindset. I always thought that I was better on my own than working for somebody else. And I guess for me, it worked out really well for me. But I mean, it's been a roller coaster. It's been like this. I mean, it's not easy. It's not easy.
Someone, I remember actually one of the quotes from Elon Musk was saying, being an entrepreneur, it's like eating glass. He was so sometimes, yeah, it could be a very painful and very difficult moment. But what do you think about people who are entrepreneurs that are actually entrepreneurial within a large organizations? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's great. I think there's two ways of being an entrepreneur, and there's an entrepreneur, and then there's just like a solopreneur, a company of one, or you setting up your own business. Being an entrepreneur is, and this is something I teach my kids. I have 3 kids, and I have this model I work with them where I teach them how to become entrepreneurs. Like all their chores and the money they win in the house, they actually set up their own business with their own logo, and they invoice me at the end of the month, and they're learning how to deal, how to negotiate. And the reason I'm doing that with my kids is because I want them to have an entrepreneurship mindset, not necessarily mean to go out there and have their own business. You can be an entrepreneur in a company, but the mindset is what's important, because an entrepreneur is always looking for solutions, always looking to pivot, to change, to improve, to innovate. And if you have that mindset inside a big corporation, then you'll be able to create amazing things. It's not a bad thing. I mean, I think it's super powerful to work for big corporations. I just never chose that path. But I actually do encourage a lot of people. They're like, maybe I should work in a big corporation, or maybe I should set up my own business. Well, maybe you're better off working with big teams and big budgets because you have more flexibility to actually create. But the mindset is what's important, because you could be just another number, an employee, or you could be that guy that leads a team that actually creates innovation, creates change, and makes a lot of people's lives easier, because you're actually providing value with a huge, talk about big brands that could actually impact society and communities. Well, you can be part of that impact as well. So I believe it's a mindset. It's not so much where you are. If you're, I'm an entrepreneur because I have my own business, you could be an entrepreneur and be extremely successful and extremely passionate and have an extremely happy life. So I believe that both of them are extremely important. The mindset, I think, is something we have to teach our kids constantly, and teach our young people that are coming out of college to have that mindset.
I love that. Herman, you touched on a very important topic. And I tell you, being an entrepreneur, or really even working within an entrepreneurial environment, regardless of where you are in your life or career, one of the most important thing and duty we have when you become a parent, and because often the children are seeing the worst of us, but they also see they deserve the best of us. What are your advice really of how to nurture that spirit of entrepreneurship with our own children? Because that is one of the key categories we need to nail in life in order to prosper. Of what do we teach? How do we actually teach our children? So tell us more about how do you do that with your children? What are the kind of things and activities you do? I think that'll be of great value for the audience.
Well, so there's this exercise I started doing with my kids. I told them, get a piece of paper and cut it in half with a line, just do 2 columns. And then one side, put what you're really good at, what you think you're good at. My kids, I have a 13-year-old daughter, and then I have twins, boy and girl, they're 10. So I'm like, just write down like the 5, 7, whatever things you're good at. And then on the other side, write what you're passionate about, what you really wish you could do for the rest of your life. If you had if you could choose. I mean, this is a tough question for a 10-year-old or 13-year-old, but still they managed to do these like lists. And then I said, okay, look at the ones that actually match. Look at the ones that you're good at and you're passionate about, because that's the perfect mix for anything. If you're good at something and passionate about, oh my God, you're gonna make it big, because that's where all your drive and everything's going. Your energy is gonna be there. So they picked some. So I'll give you the examples. Like my 13-year-old daughter, she's into social media, obviously, a teenager. And she's like, well, I love social media and I want to help you build your TikTok channel. It's something we've been talking about. And I'm like, great, because I'm not using TikTok at all, or barely. And she's like, I can help you do all this stuff. And I'm like, great. So what's the name of your company? Second step, I ask them to set up a company and put a name, to have that identity, not have some, to have like a logo that represents who your passion is, or what your passion is. It's like we all have our identities, but then your company should have its own identity. So she called our company Social Wisdom. Her name is Sophie, which means wisdom. And at the end, she's like, well, I do social media, so I'm going to call my company Social Wisdom. I'm like, great. Now go to Canva, I think it was. She used Canva to do the logo and make a logo. What do you want to have that identity represent? She made up a logo. And then I said, okay, what are your services? So she did a list of services, and then we negotiated pricing, item priced. And then they use an app called Billdo, and they can actually send me invoices with their logo and their address and all that stuff. And at the end of the month, we negotiate. She's like, okay, Dad, I posted 25 videos. I edit these, blah, blah. You owe me 25 euros. And I pay them through Revolut. So it's all digital, but I pay them 48 hours after I get invoiced, because I'm trying to teach my kids to have a delay of gratification, to understand that everything's not constant. And usually in business, when you send an invoice to your client, they don't pay you right away, right? It takes a while, right?
48 hours, most of them.
Most of them take months, right? And you have to chase them down. So in a way, it's like this is not immediate. It's not something you can do on Friday and get paid Friday. You're probably going to get paid on Monday. So make sure you plan out your job, plan out your structure, And then my other kids also, they have their own companies. And then they do, I call them companies, but they do stuff inside the house. And whenever they want to earn money, and I transform chores into a business model for them. And they actually start doing this. They're like, Dad, I invoice you. And they chase me down. It's fun, because I tell them, I'm not going to pay you until 2 days from now. But if it's 3 days and I haven't paid them, I don't tell them anything. Sometimes I do it on purpose. And they come up to me and say, Dad, you have to pay me the invoice. It's been 48 hours. You owe me that much money. It's like, and I want that. That's an entrepreneurship mindset. I want them to be on top of their responsibilities. Like if I did a job, I should get paid for it. And these are the rules. I'll respect the rules. But after that, I'm going to chase down the person that owes me the money, right? In a sense. So it became a fun game. So they're always spotting opportunities all over the house. They're like, maybe I should fix this, or I got to do this. I'm going to change this here. I'm going to do that. How much for this? Dad, check this out. And they keep looking and becoming innovative and creative, and they're spotting opportunities where I don't see them, or problems where I don't see them, so they can actually find solutions. And that's, I think, the biggest thing as an entrepreneur is you have to find solutions for possible problems, roadblocks that you will have along the way, because that's life. It will happen to you as an entrepreneur. And if you teach them early on, then those are not ever problems. They're just normal things they're learned how to overcome. It's like walking. A little kid, when they start walking for the first time, they fall so many times, they get hurt so many times, but they keep getting up and doing it. And after a while, you walk and you don't think about it anymore. And I wanted to have that mindset that don't think about those things that are bad as problems. See them as possible solutions, see them as, okay, a roadblock along the way. I got to pivot, I got to change, I got to shift. And how do I do that? With new ideas, new innovation, new creativity, and finding new ways to actually get things done. So that's kind of like the process that I have with my kids. And I mean, it's super fun, because we get along very well with that process, and it's just so creative. It's crazy,
This is one of the most wonderful story I've heard about how to raise children, honestly. And I love the fact that you really enjoy the process, because that's the key. And sometimes you have that balance between, do you need to teach them just to take responsibility and help in the house? or do you need to pay them for activities in the house, or do you need to pay them for activities elsewhere? It's a very interesting, discussion. But I love what you're talking about, of how really you teach them the spirit of entrepreneurship, the spirit of discovering opportunities, and so. Well, just to kind of zoom in a little bit in your 10 year, you're the 10 years old, the twins, and really helping out with the house. What are the kind of things they spot out or look out? Have you told them, if you find something in the house that needs to be improved, I'll pay you? I'm interested in really the kind of.
Well, so first of all, you said something very interesting, which is obligations are obligations. And I tell them, you live in the same house we do, and we all produce trash, and we all have to wash the dishes. I'm not paying you for that, because I don't want you to have that in your mindset that taking out the trash is going to give you money. No, I don't. That's not what I want. That's something we do because we're a community inside our house, and we help each other out. When things are escalating differently, like my daughter is doing social media, which that's not something she should be doing, or she doesn't have to do, it's an obligation. So my son, he has his company is about fixing things that are around the house. His name is Martin. We call him Tino, and so his whole job is handy. His name is Handy Tino, and that's his logo. And he's fixing stuff around the house. So he's always looking, Dad, this broke, Dad, this, we got to fix that. Or he sees me in the yard, he's like, I'm going to go help you. And he charges me per hour. So that's kind of cool. So he's like, this is my hourly charge, a year and a half or 2 years an hour. So he's there in the yard with me cutting the grass or helping me out do stuff, taking out weeds or whatever it is. And he gets paid for it. So then he goes into his computer, he invoices me, and he gets paid. And then my daughter, Gabriela, her company name is called Happy G. And she's in charge of making sure everything looks nice. Like, hey, this is out of place. The couch should be organized and symmetrical. And she's always like fixing stuff, making sure it looks nice. Water the plants, make sure the plants look beautiful. So she's all into harmony, and that's her spirit, actually, because that's actually her personality. She doesn't get into fights. She's super peaceful. She likes things nice. So she found that passion. My son is like, I like fixing things. He likes hammers and stuff. So he found that passion. And my daughter had the other passion about social media. And she looks at data. She's telling me, Dad, look at this video on TikTok. 4 people reshared it. And then you have people that saved it. And you're just starting out. This is really good. I'm like, I don't know. Is it good for TikTok? She's like, yeah, this got like 100 more views than the other one. And I was like, okay. She's actually going into the data processing part too, which is interesting. I'm not telling her to do that, but she's doing it because she's trying to, how can I improve my dad, And if my dad can get big on TikTok, then obviously I'm going to be doing more content for him. So she's spotting those opportunities. So it's really interesting. And that's not something you teach them. It's something that once you get them into that road, into that journey, they start evolving on their own. And I think that's the beauty of it, because then they realize that's something you tell them, oh, look at the data. No, she's like, I want to look at the data. Wait, data is interesting. Data is powerful. So who knows maybe what she becomes in the future. I don't know. But each of them have their own little things that they don't. So when somebody has to fix something, they call my son. Yeah, you got to fix this because you're the one that has to do this. It's kind of like, and they're all doing like teamwork kind of thing. So it's kind of cool because it's becoming like a little company. It's like you got to do this. Who's the expert at this? Who's the expert at that? And you surround yourself with people that are smarter than you in certain things that you're weak at, right? And but it's just becoming a little ecosystem on its own. It's kind of like growing, and I'm just kind of like feeding it a bit, but it's just taking out its own little life form. It's weird, but it's really cool.
No, I love that, Herman. Thank you so much for sharing this. It just sounds fantastic. But also for those parents, and a lot of the audience is parents already listening, and maybe some of them already have children not grown up, but really the key is, if you are in that stage of life and you're raising children, that's probably one of the most important mission we have here, to make sure that we really pay attention to raising children. And please start with you as well, because if you're in a good state of mind, you'll have that really joy and patience like Herman has been having. And I would love to hear more about, how do you find that passion, Herman? How do you have this joy? Because sometimes could be overwhelmed with what's going on, with a lot of work, with crisis, with wars. There's so many things that surrounds us, elderly parents. There's just could be an overwhelming amount of things to do. and it's not easy to do them. And so, how do you take care of you, Herman? What are the secrets for you to be in that flow,
Yeah.
or well, I guess we all have our down moments, but what is your way of taking care of yourself?
Well, yeah, it's hard sometimes. It's hard to have that discipline, right? And I believe in productivity, and I really believe in making sure you use your time wisely. A lot of the times when we start doing stuff, we waste a lot of time. Honestly, doing many tasks, and at the end, we get exhausted by just the mere fact that we have to be on top of everything, and we're not organized enough. So for me, it's very important to be organized. I have a morning routine. I wake up really early in the morning. I have 3 hours for myself, pretty much. I do exercise, I read, I write, I journal, I do courses. I do a bunch of stuff just to kind of like. I think it's so important that.
Just take us through your morning routine, just because you said a few very interesting things. But how is your morning starts? Just to understand what a normal
Well,
morning.
it's kind of funny because I do have a list of like 6, 7 things that I do, but they're not really in that particular. They're never in the same order. It's kind of like how
Mhm.
I believe that you should have a goal in the morning, and I'm going to walk you through exactly how I do it. But you should have a goal and like, okay, I want to achieve this before I actually sit down to work. But it doesn't have to be. I believe in flexibility. It doesn't have to be okay. I wake up and I do this first, and then I do this second, and I do. My mind is very creative. I don't work that way. So sometimes I feel like waking up and reading, and sometimes I feel like waking up and meditating first. So things that I do all the time is meditation. I read. I write. I always take courses. Like I go online and at least 20, 30 minutes of any sort of course. I do exercise. And then I have a moment for me just for reflection. So those are kind of like the 6, 7 things that I do in the morning, and I
Wow.
don't do them in the same order. And they're just there. They're just coming in and out. Sometimes I feel like just drinking my coffee for 30 minutes and just looking out to the trees and just getting my head expanded. Or sometimes I feel like just I want to meditate right now and I want to feel like get into that zone and into that flow. But I believe this is like an airplane. You've flown on planes. Everyone's flown on planes. When you sit down, there is a checklist before they actually get on the runway, right? There is a checklist of things they got to make sure everything's working out properly before the trip starts. For me, my morning routine is that checklist before my trip starts, which is being productive, working, doing something. Okay, so I don't believe in waking up and sitting down in front of my desk because I don't think you've had the checklist. You run into the risk of crashing, okay, or burning out. And this really happens to a lot of people. A lot of people wake up really quick. The first thing they do is pick up their phone, look at their phones. Big mistake. Don't do that. They don't rehydrate themselves because at night you lose a lot of water. So how do you have to rehydrate yourself in the morning? The first thing you do. I drink this thing called Athletic Greens, which has like a bunch of like nutrients and minerals, and it's completely. I drink it. The first thing I do is because it rehydrates me. You have to drink it 20 minutes before you eat anything or anything like that. I wear an Aura ring. It tracks my sleep, make sure that I sleep correctly. I'm very techie, so I love all these kind of gadgets and apps that tell me and kind of guide me through my process. But I do my checklist, and I think it's super important that when you sit down, and I'm sure people take their time, at least not 3 hours, but at least take 1 hour, 45 minutes before you sit down to work for you, and implement a little checklist for you. Your day is going to be a lot more productive. You're going to get out earlier. You're going to accomplish a lot more because you're getting ready for that day. And I think the morning routine is kind of like that checklist before the plane takes off on the runway.
What time do you wake up, Herman?
I wake up between 6 and 6:30. Again, it's flexible. It's not like 6:45 or
Yeah,
6:15.
sure.
I like flexibility. Yeah.
Well, I can see that. At what time do you start your work?
Usually 9:30, 10-ish sometimes. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Usually I take, I don't believe in starting work at 9 because everybody starts work at 9. And I believe that I should, as an entrepreneur, not start when everybody else starts. I don't know why. It's a stupid thing, but I guess the 9 to 5 kind of thing shocked me that people we're like little robots, and I think we should have that flexibility and just have that time off for yourself. And I think it's the most important thing because you're the one that's doing stuff, right? You're the one that's actually going to get things done. So make sure you have your time.
I love very much what you do, and I believe in it. Actually, it makes so much sense. I just appreciate the way you've said it. Before the plane takes off, please check the checklist of yourself, because in reality is when I speak to a lot of leaders from around the world and everyone really, if we don't take care of ourselves and really inner work, that the first thing in the morning that we do and dedicate the most precious time, to the areas that are important. For me, the order matters, however, and I'll explain why in a minute. But very much relate to what you do, and that makes such a big difference, because when you are ready, you've checked that, you're ready to serve, you're ready to give back, you're ready to make a difference, and you get more excited about the day, more excited about really what you're going to do. And it's just so important to spend that time with you and for you as well, because I believe there are 5 categories that you need to nail in life in order to prosper or take care, really. And as I speak a lot about is the order matters. And the number one is spiritual prosperity. A lot of people are not really aware of why this is so important and why people follow so many great spiritual leaders out there. There's a reason for that, and you got to go and find out why and study that. But also that could be a time with yourself, whether this is in prayer, meditation, or understanding of that reflection. It matters. It gets you to actually that could be reading, that could be listening, that could be praying. It's just in that kind of category matters. And now, second thing is the mental prosperity, where you work on your mental health, and that could be learning new things, learn to learn fast, your will, whatever you say you do, learn to react or master your reactions to your emotions, and really make sure that you're sharp, you're on point. Number 3 is the physical prosperity, and here is obviously the training, what you mentioned about, and your good nourishment of the body, and hydration is very important. I actually like you hydrate like a bottle of warm water every morning. Just helps the brain, and when you take care of those 3, so spiritual, mental, physical, you're in a much better position to get on the rest of the day. And of course, the 4th one is financial prosperity, and the 5th one is your relationship prosperity. But the financial is a byproduct of your service and really helping others, so it's external. And then you got the relationships, which you're much more resourceful if you've taken care of yourself. So really, it's so happy to see that you're doing those things. And how long have you been doing that? Really this kind of
Wow.
taking yourself.
I guess that this disciplined probably like 4 years, maybe. Before that, what I would do was get up, meditate, drink a huge glass of water with lemon, and go to the gym for like an hour and a half. So now I'm doing a lot shorter workouts. I'm doing like 25-minute workouts, more efficient workouts, instead of spending so much time in the gym. And I'm investing that time into learning and doing other things for myself. So I've always been very active, and I always loved sports. So I've always been very active doing sports, and the gym was a good thing for me. It was like a great escapade, but it was kind of weird, because when you go to the gym, I started running for like 35 minutes. I would listen to a podcast. So I was also learning there without even having that routine set. But then I was also sometimes in that meditation state, kind of like when I was stretching at the end, I was kind of like just going through my day, how my day is going to look like, and kind of getting ready for it. But I never thought about it. I never had like the system set in place that I have now. So yeah, I would say like 4 years that I have this system.
And what difference does it make for you in your
Huge.
growth, productivity? Tell us what are the outcomes in those 4 years from where you were?
I think huge, especially with the pandemic, that we were stuck. And my industry is events, so I do a lot of tech and data for events. And imagine we had lined up a ton of events, and then COVID hit, and then everything just got canceled. And whoa, our company took a huge hit. So if I wasn't able to cope with that and understand how to pivot or shift or fix things in order to survive, and kind of like go into critical, hibernation mode kind of thing, because it was pretty much locked down for a whole year, events were gone. I wouldn't have been able, I don't think I would have been able to actually survive and my company survive, and we did survive, and now we're booming again, and we're really happy at the outcome of this year. But I think it's all mindset. It was just because you're ready for that hit, because you were healthy, you're strong, you're mentally fit, and okay, when those things happen, you just look at it like, all right, I mean, it happened. That's it. I can't control it, but I can control what I do, and I can control how I act and how it affects me in a certain sense. So I'm gonna go ahead and start doing something about it, and that helped me. My mindset really helped me actually achieve that. So I think it did take a, for my relationship as well with my wife and my kids, it gets you into another state. You're more relaxed, you're more focused on the moment, you're more mindful in the things you're doing right now. You're not thinking so much ahead of time of what I have to do tomorrow and all the worries and all the things. When I'm with my kids, I'm with my kids, and I pivot to my family. And I love about pivoting is pivot to work. I don't believe in work-life balance, because balance is flat. I believe in pivoting when you're working, hardcore productive, focus 100% on your work, and then pivot back to your family, focus 100% on your family. So pivoting for me is, yeah.
That is the most difficult.
Yeah, what?
Most difficult thing to do. I just wonder, what are the secrets of how you pivot apart from the morning routines that you do?
I guess time. I think my kids are growing, and they're gonna be gone one day, and it's like that moment will come, like any other moment in your life has come. And I'm really aware of that, and I'm enjoying every part of their growth, and I'm enjoying being with them, because I know that in 10 years they'll probably be gone, and they'll be studying somewhere, and I won't have the power to go back in time and say, oh man, I wish now that I could have enjoyed this moment with my kid, or my daughter, or my son. No, I mean, enjoy it now, because now is the moment. Now is the time you're living, and tomorrow you never know. So I think it's just a mindset thing. It's just make it simple. Don't overcomplicate things. Life is already as it is, complicated. So if you overcomplicate your own existence and your own living and the way you actually live with your family and your friends and how you engage with people, then I think you're just in the wrong path. I think that it should be simple. It'd be simple, true, and moment right now. Live this moment. Like right now, I'm talking to you, and I'm talking to you, and I don't really care about what's going on around me, and I'm not thinking about what I'm gonna do the next hour. I'm focused on this interview, and I'm having fun talking to you, and this is all. This is my moment right now. So I think people should live through that process. I think it's super important to actually have that mindset.
Herman, this is fantastic. I mean, it's really mastering this. It's one of the keys for mental prosperity. And thank you for sharing those best practices. And there's so much value in this. And I'm pretty sure that's doable. We can be prosperous. We can have a victorious lives and amazing lives that we know how to design and build if we actually put the right and understand the key principles and categories and really break it down. And of course, it's not just doing it once. Every day matters. Every single day. Every day is a new beginning, and you got to be able to. But as you practice more, things get easier. Things get more enjoyable, and you've got, I hear, awareness. You've got obviously tried many different things. You are appreciative of many things that happen, and that brings that level of energy and spirit that really. It's really being who you are, and that deep confidence and authenticity that is really powerful. And what is your advice to leaders that may not have that yet but want to get there? How could they achieve that? Because it's a
Yeah. I mean, you have to find the time, and the time is there. It's just not, and I hate the word "find the time," or I hate the words "I don't have time." I just don't think that if you say that to yourself in anything in life, then whatever it is that you're saying you don't have time for, it's not a priority in your life. And you should make this a priority in your life, because when something is a priority in your life, you make the time. Okay. When it's not, you find an excuse. You don't have the time, you don't have the resources, you don't have whatever it is. There's always an excuse for you not to do something. So your mindset should be, okay, you're the engine that's driving your everyday life. You're the engine that's driving your emotions. You're the engine that drive your decisions. It's you. It's not the world. It's not your society. It's you. You're the one that wakes up every morning, decide what to do, how to feel, and how to react. So you should make that a priority. You're like, okay, how can I master this by making a priority? You probably get home, whatever time you get home and you spend an hour and a half, 2 hours watching Netflix or your phone, or go to bed and wake up get those 2 hours earlier and spend them on your own. The problem is that a lot of people don't like being alone, and
Ah,
and that's a huge problem, because if you can't stand yourself, or you can't stand your conversation with yourself, then you're in a bad place. You really need to understand that this is you. You are this, and you are that little voice in your head. That's part of you, who you are. It's not something external that's talking to you. It's you. It's yourself. So if you don't have that commitment to understand who you are as a person, and that commitment to actually uh, see how you can manage and how you can influence that little voice in the back of your head, it's always going against everything you always wished or dreamed about having. And then you say, oh man, I'm so unlucky. No, you're not unlucky. You just haven't worked for it. I think luck happens when we work really hard, right? Somebody said that. There's a quote about it. And I think you find luck when you work really hard. I don't remember the exact quote, but the problem with people is like, oh, how do you spend 3 hours on your own? And don't you go all crazy thinking about, no, I'm enjoying, I'm trying to learn and trying to know myself a lot better. Yeah. And sometimes it's tough to be alone. Sometimes it's tough to talk to yourself and to tell you things that you don't like and to hear them from yourself. And we are our own worst critic, but you have to go through the process. Okay. It's just like sleeping or eating. I mean, being with yourself, as you're going to be with yourself for the rest of your life till the day you die.
yeah,
You're going to have the
very
last
good.
thought.
You better enjoy it and learn how to.
Yeah. So enjoy. If you're going to be eating, enjoy the food you eat. Don't eat crap, just because you want to, or you're hungry. No, just eating should be a process as well. And sleeping, enjoy sleeping, and be like, oh, I got to go to bed because tomorrow I got to wake up early. No, you got to go to bed because you're going to rest, and you're going to give all this awesome rest to your brain and your muscles, and your body's going to wash out all the crap inside of you, and your brain's going to wash all the different toxins that you accumulate during the day. I mean, it's super needed that you need to get your rest. So feel excited about going to bed. Feel excited about having a good meal. Feel excited about being with yourself, because it should be something that should be on your priority list. Because at the end, you're working for yourself. You want to win that money. You want to go on that vacation for you, right? Not for somebody else. And you might be contributing to communities and societies, but if you're not happy with who you are, there's no way you can make an impact. It's really hard because you're always going to be judging people, and all those people that are judging everyone, they're just not satisfied with who they are, and they're kind of like giving all that crap they have inside, just throwing it at everybody. You know those people that criticize you for anything. Oh, you're doing what again? Oh, really? Well, I wouldn't do it that way. Yeah, well, you never done it. It's like, who cares? I don't listen to that kind of advice anyway. But
Yeah,
just be happy with who you are and try to get to know yourself a little better. And if you're not happy with who you are right now, well, try to learn to be happy. Try to at least listen to yourself a little more and not reject that little voice in the back of your head. You may not listen to it because sometimes it's tough, but at least have the conversation with the voice and just see what happens, see where it takes you.
what a great wisdom. If you're not happy with yourself, there's probably no way to make a big impact, or the world, or the impact you make may actually be affected, and may not be as impactful as it could be when you're actually fulfilled and happy with you. So thank you for sharing this. And of course, do not take advice from people who haven't done what you're looking to do. Look out from the best. Only take advice from people who have done and amongst the best in the field that you're looking at. And I think there's so much wisdom in it, because when you look at YouTube, you can find people that are doing the things that you may want. So a fantastic, really, wisdom. At our fingertip, we can get access to a lot of knowledge and wisdom. So I think we have so much. And thank you for giving us all this perspective and advice. You seem to have a lot of great things that are working in your life, from family perspective, from your personal taking care of yourself, relationships. How about financial prosperity? How is your business doing? How well you are and where you want to be? Because sometimes doing all those things is not easy. And it's not about just money. It's about really enjoying that process as well, and it's the byproduct of your value.
It's hard. It's been hard. We got hit really hard with COVID. We got hit really hard because the events kind of canceled. We had to downsize the team a lot, and it was really painful to do that. But at the same time, I realized I started doing other things in the pandemic. I started a podcast. I started my YouTube channel where I talk about productivity. And I started doing courses and trying to teach people how to take care of themselves or take care of their time. In a sense, that's not giving me any money, but it is rewarding me a lot, because maybe eventually it does. I don't know. I just started out. It's something brand new for me, but I believe in getting the word out there, and I have the tools. Like I told you, I was a designer. I was a video edit. I used to edit videos. So now I edit my own videos. I have my own studio, my own camera. I do all this stuff. I do the filming. I love to talk. So for me, it was like, I'm just going to get the word out there. And if it can help somebody out, great. So that's one of the things. And then financially speaking, it's been rough. We had to go to banks. We had to get loans. We had to actually try to survive as much as we can. So this year looks very prosperous. We're hopefully ending up the year really good. So I'm really happy for that. Like, that takes a lot of stress out of your mind when you know that, okay, you're on the right path again. It would have been worse that we weren't doing anything. Then I would be worried. But we are doing a ton of events now, and we got stronger. We got more specialized. I realized that I should take the company out of Spain also, and try to get it out in Latin America and other countries, work with other brands and agencies that could actually represent our platform, so they could go ahead and engage at events and use tech at events and get all the data they need to understand what's going on with their attendees. So I'm working on that project right now. And then I also have another, like a spin-off project from the company, which is a lot more simple. It's about content distribution in events, which I'm starting to pilot. So I'm not really getting money out of it, but I'm getting some good brands to start using it, because I want to see how people react, how the audience reacts, how the brand reacts, get a bunch of information first before I do a business model out of it and actually go out and market it. I want to make sure that it's the right product. I think it is. It won a couple of awards, but I want to make sure that once you put it on the field, it works. And that's another advice for entrepreneurs. That famous MVP, just do it quick, ugly, and get it out there, see what happens, and see how people react to it before you actually make it perfect. So I'm kind of doing my own little startup inside of my company, and be like, I'm gonna see how this product works, and I'm gonna try to close big deals with big companies, but for free. Use it, and if it works out, then we'll talk. Once I have some. So I mean, I'm working on different projects because I love to create stuff. Financially speaking, it's good. I'm stable, so I'm happy for that part. I could be better. Yes, if COVID wouldn't have hit, we would have been a lot better. But hey,
no, but now we're coming back in a much stronger way, and it's a blessing. And thank you for sharing that, because we all know when you're in a startup, this is all the things that go through your mind, and I'm sure the signs I see of what you do and the service and the mindset, I know it's just a matter of time to continuously. If you continue doing this and not give up along the way, you'll prosper financially in a big way. You know that you're in a stable situation, but a lot more great things are coming. We also have a question here from dear Stoyan, and saying, Herman, you obviously seem to be great people, and what are your top tips for building meaningful connection relationships?
Wow, I don't know if I can give you 3, Stoyan, but maybe I can give you the best one, which is empathy. Empathy, for me, it's the most important thing. If you want to connect with people and extend your network, just be empathetic, and listen more than talk. I think it's really important. And this kind of platform that, Marian, you're hosting, you're listening more than talking, and that's kind of like the empathy part. When you're actually in a meeting, we tend to want to share our story all the time. And sometimes we learn a lot more, and we provide a lot more value just by listening to other people tell their story and tell their problems and their issues and stuff. So I believe empathy is critical. And just be considerate. We're all human beings, and nobody knows where you're coming from and what's your background and how you got to where you got. And so don't be judgmental, and be super empathetic. And I think if you don't judge anyone, and you just go with an open arm and an open mind and ask questions and try to understand how people feel and what people are doing and how they're achieving success or trying to achieve it, I think that's super rewarding, and it's going to create a very, very long-standing bond between that person and you and networking. So yeah.
Fantastic. Herman, final questions here. Any recommendations for the audience for books or personal development? What are the kind of your collection sources of learning that anyone that is willing to take on that journey of personal growth and productivity. But what are the recommendations?
Well, a lot of books. I read a ton of books. I don't even know what book I have on my desk. Look, I have one here. It says Productivity Hacks. There's one.
Of course,
I have
we have
Stoyan. I have Perform by Stoyan.
yeah.
I have Performed by Stoyan and Cristóbal Alonso, which is really good. I love that book. Atomic Habits is a really good book to enter the habit world by James Clear. I love apps. I love apps. I mean, I can show you I actually structure my phone in a certain way where I have my journaling, like my mindset apps are on the first page. And then the second page is my sports and activities. Then the third page is all about apps. I use a ton of apps like Curiosity Stream, Lucid, Uptime, Mentorist, Wondery, and these are all like podcasting, reading apps or audiobooks. And pretty much I let Blinkist. I use Blinkist a lot, and I let Blinkist recommend me. And many of the times, like, here's your recommended. There's like a little widget I have on my iPhone, and it recommends me a book, and I just hit play. I'm like, the other day was a book about weather and how to detect weather patterns, and I was like, it has nothing to do with anything I do, but it has to do with patterns and detecting data and analyzing data, which is something I do at events. So I was like, it's really interesting, the outtake, how the weather people are looking for trends and patterns in the weather and how they get that data to actually predict what's going to happen. How can we predict what's going to happen in our industries if we have the right data? So all these things kind of like give me this really amazing, they just open up my mind. I'm really open to those things, not to do with my industry.
You mentioned, we're not promoting anyone, but just the top 3 apps for you that work. You mentioned Blinkist. Any other that has been useful for the other categories?
Yeah, I mean, I'm Blinkist, and then I use Calm, Endel. This is something I really recommend if you want to get into a state of deep focus. I use this app called Endel, which is all about music and making your brain waves get into that stage where you're actually getting to the flow. I use big noise canceling headphones to work. And then another app I would highly recommend, and maybe one day they'll sponsor me because I'm always talking about it. It's called Forest. And this little app, what it does is it builds a forest. When you click on it, a little tree starts growing, and every 20 minutes a tree grows in your forest, and that's a productivity tree. So if you leave the app, the tree will die. So you can't leave that app on your phone. So whenever you pick up your phone to go to another app to look at something, or you'll waste time, because we pick up our phones over 120 times a day or more. Whenever you pick it up, it says go back to the app or the tree will die. So at the end of the month, they kind of give you a stat on how much trees you've grown. And I use that app to focus, so I don't use my phone. So I put the music and I put forest, and there's different tags and categories. And at the end of the month, I kind of look how much time I invested in recording or editing or in my business or doing proposals. And I kind of see how my time is being used. And then I adjust accordingly to that, because it helps to see that you're wasting too much time. Maybe I'm investing too much time on this. I should be focusing more on this. And I kind of shift that through my little app. But Forest, yeah, it's super fun. It's like a gamifying app. You have a bunch of trees, and it looks really nice when the forest is filled with trees, and very bad when they're all burned down because you've been leaving the app constantly. So those are the 3 apps I would recommend you actually use.
Thank you so much. Any final words, Herman? What are your really wish and vision for a more caring world?
Just don't be so hard on yourself, and don't negotiate with yourself. We should not be negotiating. Should I do this? Should I go to the gym? Should I eat healthy? That's negotiating with yourself. Just don't negotiate with yourself. There's no need to it. Take care of yourself. You're the one that's in control of this, beautiful machine called human body, and your mind is in it, and you're driving this car, and just make sure it works properly. Take care of it, because if not, it's going to break down, and then you're going to have to spend a ton more time to try to fix the sickness and the illness, and your life is going to be a lot more miserable than if you spend your time wisely, and you understand what you eat, how you sleep, what you do with your life, who you surround yourself with. Just don't negotiate that ever. That's who you are, and you should be in your priority list. And I think that's something you should definitely keep into consideration whenever you do anything in life.
Herman, thank you so much. It's been what a fantastic conversation, and you shared so many valuable tips. I'll go and check out those recommendations and apps, but also really appreciate your time and sharing your wisdom. It's been fantastic, and I wish you a great rest of the year ahead of you, and blessings to you and your family.
Thank you, Marion. Thank you so much for having me here. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one for sure.